One of the things you talk about is the story that's attached to the thing and how that story is actually more important than the thing itself. Can you say more about that concept? Because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, these things have no intrinsic value for the most part. Like art is paint on acrylic or canvas. Literally, the raw cost of goods for a piece of art is literally nothing, right? A jersey that Michael Jordan wore in a finals game, $10 made in China, best case, no intrinsic value. With a watch, fine. We could argue that perhaps there's some gold or platinum in there, which if you melt it down at today's prices of gold, maybe you've got a couple $1,000s there, but nowhere close to the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars you're paying for a watch. And so the reality is that what you are buying with all Veblen goods, luxury goods, collectibles, is the story, how that story resonates, and how it makes you feel. And it might make you feel special because you have something that is one of one, and even the richest billionaire in the world cannot buy because there's only one of them in the world and you happen to have it. It might make you feel like you've accomplished something, that you can afford to buy this. It might make you feel part of a very small group of community that you have in common with someone else, and that's why you're doing it. But there is a feeling that collectibles give you, and it's all based on the story that is being told about them. It could be the story of the watchmaker who made the watch and how much he struggled to get to that point. It could be the story of Michael Jordan and how he's the greatest athlete of all time and how there will never be anyone else that will ever be as great as the GOAT. And so owning anything that he has touched is like it was touched by the hand of God himself, right? Art, it's very much the same thing. There's a piece behind me. I'm not a big art guy, but there's a few pieces that I saw together. It made me feel something. I'm like, I want to own that. I put it on my wall. So to me, ultimately, the entire value of all of these items lives completely in the story, and the object itself sort of doesn't matter. Like, yeah, you want it to look good and you want it to be in good condition, all that, but like, you're really just buying a story. Because if you were to try and take away the story and just look at the object objectively, none of them are worth anywhere close to what anyone is paying for any of them. Every trading card, for the most part, is worth less than the cardboard it was printed on. Yet, if it's a one of one, people are paying $20 million, $30 million for this stuff. So what are you buying other than the story? And that's always been my thesis around it. And so, when I try to buy things, I look for the story. When I got into ticket stubs, it became about, I made a list during COVID of the 100 greatest moments in sports that I could remember growing up as a child, as a young adult. And then I went and I hunted for all of the ticket stubs from those moments. And all I was buying was a story of what I remembered from having watched that game as a child.
A quick note before we continue the conversation. Alongside the Diligent Observer podcast and newsletter, I also run an outsourced operations service specifically built to serve angel networks. My team handles things like initial screening, social media, newsletter prep, platform management, and a whole lot more. The kinds of things that either aren't getting done or shouldn't be done by busy community leaders. If that sounds interesting to you, send me a note. Now, back to it. So let's say your broad sort of hypothesis here is that the world is going to move towards more appetite for collectibles broadly because humans are going to have more time on our hands, and being humans, we're not just going to hang out and do nothing. We're going to do something with that.
Yep.
What are some of the next categories that you would expect to move from utility focus to more collectible?
It's funny because almost everything out there has a subsection of it that is today collectible, right? So iPhones, if you have a sealed iPhone 1, probably worth $100,000 today. This shit was $800 when it came out, which is considered crazy. It's probably $100,000 if you have a sealed one today. iPod, early Macs, first edition books. There is literally nothing that is not collectible. If you have the first version of it and it's sealed and in mint condition and all of that, right? So there's nothing that I can point to today and tell you, well, that's going to be the next one, because it already is today, there's just a very small group of people that are probably sitting on those things. And at some point, depending on how the supply of those things either goes up or goes down and how much people want them, they may eventually turn into an asset class, or they may just sort of hover around being, this niche little collectible. But it's so fascinating to see how every single object that has ever been created, there's a group that somehow turns that thing into a collectible, and they're like, well, no, this was a misprint, right? They're like, because it was a misprint, it's one of one, and now it's become a collectible. And you just go on eBay and search, you see how many things are truly considered collectible.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Diligent Observer. I'm your host, Andrew, and if you're an angel investor looking for essential angel intel in 5 minutes every week, I think you'd enjoy my newsletter. I send my best stuff, interesting deals, and more straight to your inbox so you never miss a thing. Subscribe today at thediligentobserver.com.